Alright, so I picked up this little Suzuki from the salvage auction, and it had the fender on it. I pulled it off to look at this damage. I got a marking right there indicating that bend right there, which we'll straighten back out. Body shop does this stuff to mark damage. This was bent, so you have to give this a pull and straighten that back out. But I'm gonna have to remove this whole upper tie bar support is damaged, and the biggest part of that is going to be this piece here, which welds to the frame. It's basically, you know, just a corner bracket, so to speak, for support, and that's all tweaked up there. So, but we've got a parts car we can get that off of. This side here is pretty straight. This piece is the same, you know, the same as the other side. So we're gonna leave this piece here, but we're gonna have to replace the other side. It looks like the damage to me was it looked like they rear-ended somebody, and they probably hit them a little more off to this side here, because there was pieces to the headlight that were still bolted to the car that were broke off. And looks like this is, you know, like I said, this got markings on it from a body shop, so this has been through a body shop already to do an estimate, and they may have even were going to fix it, and I don't know, something, maybe that damage right there is what totaled it out, because normally, you know, they'll have to cut this out and replace this piece here, but that's really not going to affect anything. All this right here is what really mainly takes the brunt of the impact. So yeah, anyway, so this reinforcement piece, it's toast, so we're gonna have to get this line off here and pull out these 4 screws and these 4 screws and pull that off. And I've got a replacement for that. That's fine. I just got to paint it. It's silver, as our parts car is going to be silver. But there were some things on the parts car that you know, we weren't able to reuse because it was hit on this side. So you know, I did have to go to the junkyard and get some pieces to repair all that over there. At least this section here. I got this part of the tie bar from the junkyard and a headlight from the junkyard. I've got a good headlight for this side, so pretty much everything on our car is good on this side here. So hood hinges are kind of pushed back a little bit, so they're catching. They're catching right here. So they're coming down and hitting there. This car only has 42,000 miles on it. So this is a 2013. The parts car I have is an 07. This is a Suzuki SX4. Pretty much all the front end parts on this car are on the 07 are the same as this. These were made from 07 to 13 at least. I think they made them longer than that, but just not in the U.S. because Suzuki went bankrupt in the U.S. in 13. So this was the last year of it. So, but you know, it's kind of good. You know, you get a little bit newer car, and you know, you can use an older car for parts because you can get the older ones a lot cheaper. So if you're just using them for parts, you know, doesn't matter what year it is. It's just metal. That's all you need, just straight metal on them. So anyway, I'm gonna get some of this stuff tore down, and we'll check back in. All right, so a little update on this car. We went ahead and pulled the radiator support tie bar at the top off, and we got this to deal with. We got to get this off. That's all bent up, and we're gonna go ahead and take all this off here. We'll unweld it here, or unweld it. We'll drill out the spot weld here, and get this off here. And what I'm gonna do, I found a radiator support off a car that's the same color and all that, so we're gonna go that route. I already went and got the hood off that car there. I've got a parts car for this thing, but it's silver, and so in order to save paint cost, we're gonna go ahead and go this route with it. These parts were, this hood was $50, so I couldn't turn it down. And that's off a 2013 model year, so it's off the same year car, so we're gonna go with that. Got, of course, this hood, the front bumper cover, got off that other car, and we're gonna go back get the whole tie bar at the top here. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna take it off the parts car, or the car at the junkyard. I'm gonna take it off. I'm gonna unweld it, or there we go with unweld it. I'm gonna drill out the spot welds down here, here, and over here, and just pull it off as all one piece. And then when we get ready to put it back on, we'll just weld it back in the same spots. That way we're not piecing stuff together and don't have to weld. We can leave as many of the factory spot welds as possible. So I prefer doing it that way if I can. So leave as much of the factory stuff as we can. So we'll do it that way. But yes, this radiator took a pretty good hit, but it didn't crack it. I haven't ever seen one that bent without cracking the plastic, and it did not crack the plastic. So that's pretty good. The Denso radiator held up pretty good, and this condenser here, it's a little bit banged up right here, and it was kind of bent a little bit at the top. I've managed to straighten it out for the most part. It's got a little bit of a curve to it, but we're gonna keep this. They marked it to replace it, but you know, when the insurance companies, they have to put these things all the way back to pre-accident condition. So this condenser will work just fine. It's not ever going to have a problem. You know, that's not going to cause a problem. That those fins being bent, that's not an issue. So we got it straightened out enough. I'm going to replace the radiator though. I'm not going to leave it like that. The expansion tank or the overflow tank, I'm going to replace all this. The fans back here are cracked where they, I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of dark, but it even melted this fan down here. So where it went into the hot manifold here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just replace all this as one unit. I've got all this on my car. So we're just gonna replace all that. The radiator and the fans all as one piece, and you know, and then when we get that support, we'll get it back in here. But yeah, just a little update here. All right, so we got the whole radiator support removed, and these brackets drilled out here on both sides. Ended up moving the condenser and the AC compressor. I took it out from down here because the line was right in my way, and in order to avoid discharging the system, we just basically moved half the system on top of the engine, and it gave me enough flex in the in this piping here to be able to get it out of the way. So that way we can come back in with our new radiator support and bolt it all up, or weld it all up, and you know, then put everything back the way it's supposed to go. So yeah, that's where we're at. Crash bar and all that being removed and everything like that. This is about as far as we're gonna have to tear it down. I know it looks pretty extreme, but it's just, you know, it's just a radiator support. It's really not much metal at all. It's just this piece here and those pieces over there, and the main crash beam, which I've already taken off. So, but you guys saw this when I got started on it. It was basically disassembled just like when I started the video. the body shop tore it down and all that. So I think I explained that earlier in the video anyway. Alright, so now we've got our junkyard radiator support. Got it kind of mocked up. I got some vice grip clamps holding it. Got it set into position. Got our hood latch attached, and tested the hood to make sure the hood's going to sit down and center with the latch, and it does. Our new crash beam is on right here. It bolts right up and lines up perfect. So, you know, nothing going on with the frame there. And so on this support, it bolts to the crash beam here. So what I did was I went ahead and bolted this up, clamped it up on both corners, clamped it up on both corners there, and I've got everything pretty much where we need to be before we go to welding. So we should be ready to go ahead and fry this thing on in. And I've got all my lines and stuff mocked up and routed on the right side of the support, including our air conditioner line that I had to fight with back here. This little air conditioner line here is a pain in the butt because I moved everything up here, and when I did, I think I bent that line out of whack, but luckily it's aluminum and it's pretty flexible. So anyway, our power steering cooler line here comes down from the reservoir down in here, bolts here, bolts up in front of here, in front of our condenser to cool, and so that bolts to the upper part of the crash bar. So anyway, yeah, just a little update. We're getting ready to weld this thing in, and like I said, all this stuff come off a car same year and same color, so we lucked out on that. And so we really not going to have to paint a whole lot of things. We're just going to have to paint our welds when we get done, and put some seam sealer. I'm going to put some seam sealer over the welds. I'm going to put some etching primer on the welds, and put some seam sealer on it, and then paint over it, so that way it'll kind of seal in those welds, and you know, you won't ever really be able to see them. Alright, so I'm not sure where we left off. I believe I was going to weld up the support. I got that all welded, and I got my welds primed and painted, and we got our seam sealer in there and all that painted over now. So, you know, we got the radiator mounted, the crash bar with the absorber and all that put back on. Got our horn put back on. This wire was ripped out and I repaired that, so that's good to go. We got our stuff, like our grounds and stuff. The wiring harnesses are all back in place. So now I got to work on getting the fenders and these fenders mounted on both sides, and then you know, then pretty much the front end, like the headlights and all that sort of stuff. Alright, so as you can see, we got a little bit more back together. It's starting to look a lot more like a car. We got the headlights in, the radiator in. We had a little mishap with the radiator. That's why there's a big old puddle of water, and a combination of water and antifreeze down there. The water come from me actually cleaning the radiator off before I put it in, and there's little pieces of foam that go around the edges of it, and it just holds in the water, and it finally dripped it all out. But the radiator that I got for it, the radiator that was in it was bent up. I think I probably have mentioned this already, but I'm gonna mention it anyway in case I didn't. But the radiator that was in there was bent. Didn't leak, but I said, well, eventually it probably will start leaking, so no sense in cheaping out on a radiator. So I went ahead and got a radiator for it from the car that I got the hood and all the other stuff off of, and it had a leak in it. It had a hole in the right here where the condenser and the radiator and stuff is at, in that right corner there, and so we had to end up taking that back and ended up having to go somewhere else and get another radiator for it. This one come out of a 2012, and come to find out the radiators for this thing, this has got a CVT transmission in them, in this one, and so it has a different radiator than the regular automatic, which they did away with in 2010. So 2010 to 2013 take this radiator, so I had to go find one that somebody had. Anyway, we got one, and so it's holding coolant just fine. So I don't have the hood shut up all the way, but body gaps turned out pretty good. All around the headlights turned out pretty good. Fender to hood, hood to headlight, looks good to me. So I think we're getting about close to the end of this car. Again, as you see, I filled the radiator up and it's holding pressure good, and we let it warm up to operating temperature. That's doing fine. I did have to fix this horn. The wire on it got ripped out whenever it got hit. It got pushed back and it ripped that wire, ripped it right out of the horn. So we had to replace the horn, and we had to replace a connector on the end of it. So I got that done. This plastic here in the middle, this little piece of plastic here, had to replace that. It's broken. The other one over here was broken. So those are like little air deflectors or something to keep the air channel directly into the radiator and the condenser. So anyway, yeah, this turned out pretty good so far. We're gonna go ahead and put the bumper cover on it and see how that fits up, and then we'll have to put our splash shields up under the bottom of it. I'm gonna do an oil change on it. So like I said, it's got all new coolant in it, so the coolant system, it's been serviced. It should be good to go for a while. There we are. Turn that off. I don't want to get a copyright strike. 42204. Fires right up with no lights. Even got a full tank of gas in it. So then we're gonna take it out on a cruise today and see how she does. I drove it around a little yesterday after I got everything back together, and drives like a new car. So with that, we're gonna leave it. Got another car back on the road. So thanks for watching. All right, got her all done. Bumper cover on, the oil changed, got all the tires back on, all the splash shields on up under the bottom. Gonna have to detail it, clean these headlights, give it a good wash, and that'll be about it. Alright, so here it is washed up. Got some pollen on it. Pollen's real bad right now in mid-March, but there it is, all done. I don't think I ever showed the back end of this thing.